We'll get started here in just a minute. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar and demo, Automating the Provider Appeals Process. My name is Lori Mulholland, Director of Business Development with HapEvolve, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. A few pieces of information before we get started. All lines for today's webinar are muted. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, but if you think of any questions during the presentation, you can post them in the chat box and we can answer them during the webinar. But if you'd like to answer a question live, please click on the raised hand icon and we can unmute your line. For participants who dialed in, please press *9 to raise your hand and we will unmute your line. I would now like to introduce Bill Whitaker, who is the Chief Operating Officer for eReceivables. With over 30 years in healthcare, Mr. Whitaker also served several years in key executive roles for multiple health plans, including President of PCA Health Plans of Alabama. From 1998 until 2009, Mr. Whitaker served in executive roles for different organizations providing services to health plans. Prior to his roles in healthcare, he had a 20-year career in IT, culminating to the position of Chief Information Officer for a statewide public utility. Next, we have Damie Quintana, who is the Vice President of Client Billing, Compliance, and Human Resources for eReceivables, and has been part of the team for 18 years. She has over 30 years of experience in healthcare arena, which includes roles in provider services, claims, appeal adjudication, medical underwriting, and sales. Damie currently uses her experiences to align technology, analytics, and human capital to support profitable relationships for customers and attain strategic objectives company-wide. Also, we have from eReceivables, Steve Burfin, whose career has been in both sides of revenue cycle management, with 35 years as the payer and the provider. Steve spent the first half of his career as an executive at 2 Blue Cross plans and one of the largest HMOs in the Mid-Atlantic area. For 20 years, he was an executive at a large hospital system in Maryland, where he oversaw insurance, contracting, and provider relations. Welcome to all of you today, and thank you for being here to share your expertise. I'll now turn the program over to Bill.
Thank you, Lori. Good morning. eReceivables is in the business of helping hospitals and other providers collect denied claims from third-party payers. We have a completely different approach to it that I'll get into a little bit. The PowerPoint I'm going to show you is the presentation we use when we're calling on hospitals. And because of that, I'm not going to go through each slide. We're usually talking to the revenue cycle department. So a few of the slides get into the weeds. And I also want to make sure that I leave plenty of time for Damie to give you a demonstration of the automated appeal system. Now, what I'm showing you right now is some of the results of several of our clients. The first one, first bullet you can see there is, I think the primary point I wanted to make with this one was that 34% of that $1.6 million collected was over 180 days from the date of service. One of the things we do when we sign up with a new client is they give us their legacy claims. We'll go back and process denied claims for up to a year, sometimes a little bit over a year. Also, if a hospital is converting to a new system like Epic, we frequently have been brought in to run out the legacy claims on their old systems. The fourth bullet, we collected over $13 million on small balance claims, and by that, I mean claims from that client that were under $1,000 and over 150 days old, and they had been previously worked by another vendor. One of the major differences between us and the other vendors is we're not following up with the claims department. We're utilizing the regulatory side of the payers, the appeals and compliance department. Non-payment originally came from the claims department. The appeals and compliance department can override those denials and pay claims, and they are highly regulated. The major difference. I just wanted to bring your attention to the bottom half of this slide. You know that the big problem is health insurance companies underpay or deny or don't acknowledge more claims than most providers can keep up with, and even a lot of the vendors. But the small balance claims are particularly problematic because they're very high volume, the manual follow-up is not cost effective, and then of course there's always the opportunity cost. The time that your people spend tracking down a small balance claim, that's time they don't spend chasing a higher balance claim. Here's how we're able to do what we do. The first thing was we were able to standardize the appeals form to submit. All the payers have a provider appeals process where the provider can appeal denied claims. And you have to submit in a form for that appeal. We standardized that, and for a lot of reasons that took several years, all the payers accept our standardized appeals form. Of course, just like in any business, once you have standardization, you can allow for mass production. And that's what we're able to do. Mass production then allows for cost efficiency and effectiveness. And this is what allows us to continually pursue smaller balance claims. Here's the dilemma the providers have. Assume you have 10,000 denied claims every week. Our experience with our data has shown us that roughly 30% of those claims should have been paid. So out of the 10,000 denials you have, how do you find the 3,000 that can be paid? Well, there's only one way. You got to work all 10,000. So then the question boils down to what's the most cost-efficient way to find those 3,000 claims and get them paid? And of course, the problem that the providers have is you're getting 10,000 new denied claims every week. So how long can you chase the previous week's denials? I want to bring your attention to the bottom half of this slide. About 60% of the collections for a given placement file that we're going to collect occur in the first 60 days after we get the file and submit the appeals. By another 30 days, we've collected 75% of what we're going to collect. The last 25% can take 6 to 8 months to collect. Now that's important. It's important to you because that last 25% is very frequently what a hospital and other providers end up writing off. These are the steps that we go through to submit automated appeals. I'm not going to go through each one of them because this is what Damie's going to walk you through. Basically, we get a placement file and she can press the enter button 5 times and we've got a file that's ready to go out to the payers. What happens when we send out the appeals is basically one of 3 things. It gets paid, and our data shows us that of the appeals that we send out, they're generic appeals with no supporting documentation. 47% of the payments we're going to receive occur from that initial generic appeal. The second thing that might happen is if the payer doesn't pay the claim, they'll respond with a letter telling us why they didn't pay the claim. The letters come to us. The payments go to the hospital's lockbox. And then the third thing that happens is the payer may not respond at all within the 60-day time frame. And all of this information is updated into our appeals platform. When the payer sends a letter back to us, we take that letter, we read it, we interpret it as to what the payer is saying, we code it with our unique coding scheme that we use, and we update it into the platform. One of the things that happens when we do that is our people are making a determination. Is the payer telling us that they did not get some information that, if provided, that claim is still in play? So maybe they need to copy the claim, maybe they need a medical record, they need an explanation of benefits, or the claim was miscoded. If that's the case, we secure that information out of the client system and we forward it to payer, and now that claim still has a chance to get paid. And of course, all of this activity is updated into the platform. We do all of this work. We don't, our clients give us access to their systems to retrieve information and to look at information. We don't change information in their system. And by the way, if the payer did not respond at all to the appeal within 60 days, what happens then is the appeal automatically comes out again, except this time it doesn't go to the payer's appeals department. This time it goes to the payer's compliance department. It's essentially the same letter, except it has a new first sentence. That sentence says, we sent this appeal to your appeals department on this date and they have not responded. That will continue to happen every 60 days until we get a response. Also, if the payer sent us back a letter telling us they did not have information that they needed, and we sent information as described in the top half of this slide, that 60-day clock also gets turned on. You said you needed a medical record. We sent it to you. Now in 60 days, we expect a response. And if we don't get that response 60 days after sending the medical records, the appeal comes out again. And this happens over and over and over, the continuous process that we keep going through. If the letters to us indicate a legitimate reason for not paying the claim, if 30% were payable, that means 70% were not, then we enter that information into that platform and we close it out. The advantage of our automated technology, of course, is this. The computer doesn't care if the balance is $5,000 or $500 or $50. If you're chasing these unpaid claims with people, you do care what that balance is. You can't be spending $75 to collect $50, obviously. The other advantage we have is ramp up capacity. Due to the automated nature of our platform, we can add a lot of capacity with very few personnel additions. This is what we call our payer response report card. This is data from a real client. It's a 2-hospital system in Texas, about 500 total beds. And this report reflects 13 months worth of data. So if you look, and what this report is showing us is how many appeals we sent to each payer, and at this point in time, how many of those appeals that payer has responded to. And then, of course, what percentage that represents. Now, keep in mind, a response is either a payment to the hospital or a letter to us. So you can see on the second row there with Aetna, in 13 months for this one hospital chain of 2 hospitals, we've sent over 8,000 appeals. And at that point in time, they responded to 5,667, so they have responded to 70% of the appeals. They will eventually get around to responding to all of them. It takes a while sometimes because, as you folks probably know, the health plans pretty much understaff all provider services across the board. Okay, so Aetna has responded to 70% of the appeals, but that 5,667 responses, again, is made up of payments and of letters, and it's kind of important to understand how much of which. So the second part of the report just looks at the responses. And so on the second row there, you can see Aetna, 5,667 responses. Of that, 1,776 were payments and 3,891 were letters. So of the claims, of the appeals they had adjudicated and finalized at that point in time, 31% were payments. Now, this is a snapshot at a moment in time. If I ran this report 3 or 4 days later, every number on these two reports would have changed. The other thing about it is, as I indicated before, the 3,891 letters that came back to us, some of those, in fact, quite a few of those are going to get paid, because a lot of those letters are going to be saying, we didn't get this information, that if you provide it, we'll reconsider payment on this claim. And so this process continues going back and forth, and that's what allows us to continually chase denied claims, and particularly the smaller balance claims that if you're doing this manually with people, you pretty much can't do that. Do you have any questions at this point? Okay, then, Damien, what I'd like to do is turn this over to you so you can show them how the automated platform works, and then we'll have time for questions and discussions afterwards.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Quintana, and I'm excited to be here this morning. Thank you for your time. I'm going to be sharing our unique process and demonstrating the automated follow-up and recovery platform that Bill's been speaking of this morning. There are currently 3 platforms in place for our unique process, and together with our technology, we're able to empower the provider community with operational and financial success. Our platform is responsible for executing, tracking, reconciling, reporting, and really managing all activity from the time the claim is placed with us, from our customer, through resolution. Our platform is cloud-based, it is HIPAA compliant, and I'm hoping that by now you can all see my screen.
We can.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Lori. This is our test environment. We wanted to protect any client and PHI information. So the colors look a little bit off and the numbers might not be, what you would expect or accurate, but just wanted to give you a visual of what our platform holds. And I'm starting you off with the client section of our platform. And the reason for that is because this is where we set up each new customer when we have them on board and become a customer for e-receivables. We'll include all demographic information, which captures where they're located, their type of practice, type of provider they are, NPI numbers, addresses, and we'll also capture specific rules that are going to be in place. There's a great deal of commonality in the business rules amongst our customers, but the platform does allow for customization based on specific requirements or needs by our customers. The next section that I'd like to share with you is our batches area, specifically this claims upload section. Now I cheated a little bit and I've already gone ahead and uploaded a sample placement file. And I'm gonna show you how with 5 clicks on the mouse, as Bill said, I can take this from a claims placement file from our customer all the way to an appeal file. Before I do, just a couple of points. As far as what we need in order to create an appeal file, it's very minimal. It's basic demographic information regarding the patient, some original claims data, and that's really all we'll need in order to generate those appeal letters to send them out to the payer community. So the first step was after I brought in the placement file into the platform, this first step, what it did was it checked to make sure the validity of all the claims data in that file. So it's going to ensure that all the required data elements are present and in the appropriate format. And it's also going to check for any duplication. Any claims which fail this edit are excluded from moving forward in the next step in the process. As you can see, I got a couple of hits here. I have an invalid claim, one due to the patient name missing, and I have an invalid claim due to the primary insurance ID missing. Now, as Bill mentioned, we have access to our customer system. So our analysts working these files have the option of going into the customer system, pulling this information now, populating them, and then moving forward to the next step, or just going ahead and moving forward to the next step with the rest of the file and coming back at a later time to finalize these records. All right. Step 2. When we receive the placement file from our client, the claims address to where the claims were sent to for payment is provided. And by the way, that green line that you see running across the top of my screen, that's basically the platform conducting all of the background actions and processes that are in place to make sure that we're getting the accounts from one step to the next. So that's what that green line was all about. As far as the payer addresses, so when the claim comes in to us, it's got that address where our client sent to the insurance carrier to get them to make a payment on the claim. It's usually the lockbox or whatever they have established. So when we receive a placement, our system will take that information and will convert it using our address appeal matrix. Our platform contains over 20 years of continued research and 5,000 different payer appeal addresses. As you probably know, there are many different aliases you can see on claims destined for Blue Cross or United Healthcare. And the platform is programmed to identify any of these aliases that we've ever encountered in the past. And it helps us identify the correct address for that payer's regulatory department where we want to send our appeal letter. The next step is applying additional business logic. We call it our extract process internally. This is where we extract or exclude any claims from the placement file that will not be appealed. And this can be based on rules that have been established over the years of us just working with different payers, or it could also be established by the client at the time of implementation. As an example, extracts might include items such as maybe the customer doesn't want us to pursue any claims above or below a certain threshold, and they're unable to extract them themselves from the placement files. Another common extract would be something that's within a certain financial class. Our system would be looking at that information when we're going through the upload of the placement file and extracting them from the appeal. The next step is the CSV handoff, and this is basically nothing more than the system creating an export file that we send out to our printer for printing and mailing. One thing that we've pretty much shied away from is going ahead and getting into the printing and the mailing process. I mean, we can do it, we've done it before, but we prefer to have our analysts focus more so on the data that we're coming across and how to improve efficiencies. The fifth and final step basically finalizes the file. So all our analysts would have to do would be to add a date to the file and a batch number, and that pretty much finalizes the file. As you'll see, there's a status that's now available for each specific account. Those two invalids that I mentioned earlier, we also have some extracts. This one was extracted because of a financial class. This one was extracted because of a minimum dollar threshold. Again, different ones that could be applied based on the customer's needs, in addition to our experience. After the appeals go out the door, all of the information regarding the appeal is maintained in our platform. And as Bill described, a few weeks later, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, we're going to start to receive responses from the payer community. And as those payers respond, that information is going to be maintained in our platform, as well as any actions that are taken by our team members. So let's say, for instance, we receive a request for medical records. That information is going to be interpreted in the feedback that we got from the payer, added to the platform, and then worked by one of our team members. Not only do we capture the medical record request, but we also capture over the actual action of sending out those medical records. And this is something that I want to clarify we handle for our customers. We do like to take ownership once we bring on a new customer. We want to make sure that we're as self-sufficient as possible so that these requests for medical records, maybe copies of claims, EOBs, are all things that our team members have access to and are able to respond on. All right, I'm going to go back to the batches area for a moment to kind of circle back to the loop of the process. So one of the favorite responses that we get around here is notification of payments. So if the payer does not respond in a letter stating that they need additional information or that they've upheld their denial for some reason, we receive transaction reports from our customers indicating and letting us know when an account has been paid. This is very helpful for us because it allows us to properly reconcile the accounts in our system. So anytime any payments occur at the customer's site, anytime that there's an adjustment that is done as a result of a payment or as a result of somebody else maybe just closing out an account, those transaction reports are uploaded into our platform as well, and they reconcile back to each and every account. Again, this way we don't continue to pursue anything that's already been closed out and paid. All right, this escalation process is another process that Bill touched on. If a payer does not respond to an appeal within 60 days of the appeal being mailed, the platform will produce what we call an escalated appeal. This is the appeal letter going again to the payer, but this time it's directed to the payer's compliance department instead of the appeals department. By the way, those compliance addresses are also part of our address matrix. This is the automation cycle, folks, that will continue to occur every 60 days with persistency until we receive a response. This is also that continual pursuit that is impractical and if not impossible when manually following up on an unpaid claim, especially those older, lower dollar counts. Similarly, the platform knows when we've sent requested information to the payer. So as Bill mentioned, if the payer does not respond to a request where we've sent information, we're going to go ahead and send another escalated letter to the payer letting them know, as he said, we sent you the information you requested and we haven't heard back from you. So that is another step in the follow-up process. The next area I'd like to share with you is our dashboard. Our dashboard provides us with, again, tracking and reporting. And here's where we have an accurate view of all the details and trends associated with enhancing further collection and performance for our customers. So it's a great piece and a great tool that we utilize quite often to help drive that efficiency and performance. This is what we call our donuts. It's a snapshot, really, of what's going on with a particular account. It identifies how many accounts are in the open status, whether they're in the level 1 phase of our process or the level 2 escalated phase of our process, the common actions that were taken by our team members, as well as the common responses. The closed donut has a similar view, except providing all the detail, not based on the open this time, but based on everything that's been closed. So here it'll show how many accounts have been closed out during the initial level 1 process versus how many have been closed out based on the level 2 process, with the corresponding action and respondents following along. Our favorite one, the paid one, also provides us with some really good insight on who's paying and who's not. Ties in with that payer report card that Bill showed you during his presentation. And it helps us really key in on what may be causing a payer to pay versus not. This dashboard area also provides us for custom reporting. We have appeals by payer, we have payer response reports, we have appeal history reports, and we have placement and escalation file tracking. Our appeal history and claim history reports are our tools in order to keep our customers up to date on what's going on with their claims. So, you know, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, depending on the preference of the customer, we're able to send back a status report or a snapshot in time of what's going on with all of their accounts, whether they've been appealed, what kind of responses we've received, what kind of actions have been taken by our team members, whether they've been paid, closed, all of the details that are basically part of the platform, and it's so important for us to provide our customers that they're aware of what's going on with their accounts at a given time. The intent with these claims and history appeal reports are for our customers to upload them electronically into their system. Most of our customers have the ability to do so, and it really closes the loop for them on the entire process. So it's this level of transparency resulting from the reporting that creates a great synergy for our teams and our clients by really eliminating all the guesswork and providing fact-based decision support on accounts. Not only are we in, our goal is to make sure that you guys get paid for any outstanding accounts, but that you also get some trending information that will help you future claims. So that in a nutshell is the review of our platform this morning. I'd like to open the floor for questions.
We do have one question, Damie. Do you have any experience with Meditech?
Yes, we do have several customers that use Meditech.
And another question, can we have a copy of the slide deck?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions right now?
Lori, I'd just like to add one comment. When you're dealing with data like this, like we are, and you're constantly looking at it and analyzing it, you see things that you don't see when you're just working claims one at a time. You know, we have a hospice client, for example, that every month in their monthly report, I report on how many millions of dollars in claims were denied because the initial claim was not submitted on a timely basis. Now, that's an operational issue. And one would hope that they would take that information and go and review their operations and figure out what's causing that problem and take a quality improvement process approach to it and figure out what the most frequent reason is that's causing the problem and addressing them one at a time. Another example was we had that hospital in Texas that I showed the slide on. We had a number of claims denied, same dollar amount. So our people looked into it and we saw it was the same payer, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, same dollar amount. And so we called them up to find out what was going on. And eventually what we got to, they said the claim was coded wrong. With a little more investigation, we found out that the charge master was set up incorrectly at the hospital. And so when they fixed that, they fixed all of those claims going forward. Now, if somebody was working denials one at a time in their office, a claim would come across their desk, the person would look at it, they would call the payer, they would figure out what the problem was, and they would fix that one claim. Somebody on the other side of the room might have done the same thing. They might have got a denial for that hospital, for that particular service, called up the hospital, found out what the issue was, and fixed that one claim. So there's a huge opportunity for process improvement when you look at data in the aggregate like we do.
All right, we have a couple of more questions that just came in. Do you have any clients in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware area?
Yes, We don't have any in Delaware. I know we've got some in Pennsylvania.
All right.
But one of the things about this is no matter where you're at, appeals are handled the same way. And by the way, they tend to be centralized with the major payers. So if you're in Delaware or Pennsylvania and you've got an appeal for United Healthcare, it's going to Salt Lake City. If you got one for Aetna, it's going to Louisville, Kentucky. And that's also true of the type of claim it is. Whether it's a hospital claim, an outpatient claim, an inpatient claim, we have hospice clients, we have lab clients, DME clients. The appeal process is handled the same way.
Thank you. One more question here. Do you do arbitrations, settlements, if payers continue to deny inappropriately?
No, but what we can do, and we do, is we provide that information to the hospital to show them who's denying and why they're denying. We had that situation with a health plan in New York City. What they had done is they had outsourced the authorization. So the authorization was getting approved, but then when the claim came through, it was getting denied. And it was caused by a glitch in a communication software between the payer and the delegated vendor doing the authorization service. Now that took several months, probably 8 months to resolve, but we got it resolved and got all those back claims paid.
Thank you. If there are any other questions that you would like to answer live, feel free to unmute your line and you can ask our experts here today. I have a question for you. I hear this a lot from folks while I'm out visiting our members in Pennsylvania. How long does this take to implement, or how much time, how much of a heavy lift is it on the hospital's end?
That's a good question, Lori. How much time it takes varies by hospital, and that it's totally dependent on the hospital's IT department and their ability to participate. The client is never waiting on us. Now, in terms of what they got to do, it's not a lot. They generally they typically have to create a placement file for us that they select what claims they're going to give us, how old the claims are going to be, like 60 days after billing, 90 days after billing, etc. What are the dollar thresholds? Are they going to give us just claims under $1,000 balance or claims under $5,000 balance? So the hospital has to make those decisions. And what financial classes are they going to give us? Are they going to give us managed Medicaid or managed Medicare? If they're going to give us managed Medicaid, then they better relook at how old the claims are, because I don't know anywhere where you can appeal a Medicaid claim after 60 days. So they have to be able to develop a software to give us those placement claims, and it should flag in their system these claims have been assigned to an outside vendor, so that nobody in the hospital continues to work them. And also, when the payments come through, they can easily identify, well, here are the payments that e-receivables are responsible for. We don't need a lot of data. DAME provides the information on the data elements we need. It's not a lot, but it does require them to be able to produce a placement file. And frequently, they haven't done that before, because if they're working with the vendor that's chasing the claims manually, often that vendor is working out of their system, out of they're being the hospital. And if the vendor is working on the hospital system, they don't need a placement file. They just need a list of the accounts to chase. So the hospital may not have a file like that already developed. However, if they've had vendors where they had to give them placement files, they probably got 80 or 90% of what we need.
One more question here. Can you handle physicians, labs, DME, in addition to, these are, I assume, hospital claims? Can you do those other areas?
Absolutely. As my second slide, the first slide, actually, it showed a lot of the results from a lot of clients. Those were not all hospitals. We had DME clients, lab clients, physician clients. What else, Damie? Think of the others off the top of your head?
Dialysis.
No.
At one point we had ambulance. It's pretty much very well rounded as far as the service type.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And like I said, those different types of providers, they send the claim to the payers deny it, and once it's denied, the appeal process is the same, regardless of what type of claim it is.
Perfect. Do we have any other questions out there? Give you a minute. Looks like these are really good questions.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Well, if we don't have any questions, we can give you a little bit of time back on your schedule. Did you have anything else, Bill or Damie, to add before we let these folks go?
Well, if you just want to fill up the hour, I can go back and show those slides I skipped over.
I think people would be good with getting them, so we appreciate you allowing us to send them out. So we really appreciate your time today, for sharing your expertise and your insights, and thank you for all joining us today. We will send out an email from Half Evolve with the slides for today's presentation, and if you have any other questions, we will have the contact information to our industry partners as well in the email. So thank you all for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.